RTV6, Indianapolis This Week.
Welcome to Indianapolis This Week. The race for U.S. Senate in Indiana is getting underway in earnest, and the president amps up his rhetoric against both North Korea and one of the leaders of his own political party. But first, Vice President Mike Pence back home in Indiana. He talked about fighting crime and made a brief nostalgic visit to the State House. Our Mark Mullins takes a look at the former governor's Friday in Indianapolis.
A homecoming for Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen as they waved from Air Force Two. Pence carried the family's new dog, Harley, down the staircase before heading to a downtown Indianapolis hotel to deliver the keynote address at the Indy 10-Point Coalition luncheon.
It is my pleasure to introduce the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
Pence spoke about the groundbreaking work the 10-Point Coalition does in Indy to help reduce crime and start a dialogue in neighborhoods plagued with violence.
You brought Indianapolis together in common cause, law enforcement, faith leaders, local businesses, government officials, all in evidence today, families and local residents, all for one common purpose, and that is to tackle the violent crime and the lack of opportunities for young people in our cities.
And look to the future as the 10-Point Coalition model begins to expand to other Hoosier communities statewide.
And the 10-Point Coalition is not only going to be inspiring cities across Indiana, I promise you, it will continue to inspire cities and communities across the United States of America.
And the Vice President and former Indiana governor also took the opportunity to pay tribute to fallen IMPD Deputy Chief James Waters, who was killed in a car crash last month.
We will cherish and honor his service always, and we express our condolences to his family.
As the governor delivered those remarks, a crowd was growing at the State House to honor Indiana's 50th governor. The 51st governor, Eric Holcomb, welcomed him home.
Historic day to be in our State House.
His official governor's portrait unveiling ceremony had Pence feeling more like a Hoosier again, giving praise to the governors who came before him.
It's deeply humbling for me to think that this image will be added to a historic collection here at the State House. I've had the privilege to know many of my predecessors, and I consider them all my betters.
Congressman Todd Rokita says he wants to defeat the elite. He's been in Congress since 2011 after serving as Indiana's Secretary of State. Rokita joins a growing GOP primary field to unseat Senator Joe Donnelly in 2018. He's distancing himself from the D.C. elite in the money, but he's positioning himself as a partner to President Trump and Vice President Pence. Rokita says he is conservative, common sense, and connected to Indiana.
Hoosiers see me and engage me every week in church, at the grocery store, on the Little League field. And when I see what goes on in Washington and then talk to my neighbors, I share their disappointment, their anger, and their distrust.
State Senator Mike Delph introduced Rokita at the formal announcement, ending any speculation that he might get into the race. We requested a one-on-one interview with Rokita for this show. Congressman Luke Messer formally kicked off his campaign this weekend at his annual family barbecue in Morristown. The primary appears to be pitting allies of Pence on the side of Messer against Hoosiers who are aligned more with Trump, who are supporting Rokita. State Representative Mike Braun is also jumping into the GOP primary. He owns a distributing company in Jasper, and he says federal regulations have been the cause of most of the issues he's faced. I asked him what the correct path forward is on health care and what he thinks of calls to repeal now and replace later.
I wish we would have had a better plan ready to go in terms of things like selling insurance across state lines, transparency rules that the whole health care industry doesn't abide by, emphasizing prevention, health savings accounts. None of that is getting heard. So I think at this point, we've lost the opportunity to do that with proactivity and doing it while we were trying to repeal. What's going to happen there? I'd be mostly for keeping. No one wants to go broke because they get sick. Conservatives and liberals agree on that. You need coverage regardless of what the amount is. We do that in our own plan. So until conservatives start talking about solutions of what they're going to do, rather than just pull coverage from a lot of people that have now been covered by Obamacare, we're not going to be successful in the healthcare arena. I really think it's still salvageable. I think conservatives can have a great message. It's got to be along the lines of what we've done. That could apply to how healthcare is distributed throughout the country.
Are you concerned that you could alienate members of your own party by challenging two pretty well-known congressmen?
In the get-togethers I've been at where we've had to discuss that issue, if you're not okay with the fact that you should be healthier after you have a more diverse background of potential candidates, they clearly come from a pathway of being in politics most of their career. Nothing against that, but I clearly represent a guy that has made his cred in the private sector that knows his way around government. So I won't have to learn the process, but believe me, everything that I'm sensitive to and interested in, I've learned in the private sector. Now I know what you can do through government to maybe make things a little easier for those of us that create jobs, build opportunity for others, and make the economy tick.
Now that Rokita is officially in, Republican Diego Morales says he'll run for Rokita's seat in the 4th Congressional District. Morales is an Army veteran. He served as Pence's senior advisor when he was governor. 3 Democratic candidates are also running for the 4th Congressional District seat. They are Toby Beck, Joe Mackey, and Sherry Shipley. The man those Republicans want to challenge is not discussing his re-election campaign yet. Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly spent time in Indianapolis last week. He applauded his colleagues for approving the right to try bill. Donnelly also discussed the nuclear threat from North Korea. He sits on a Senate subcommittee that deals with missile defense. He says the U.S. should use sanctions to get the attention of both North Korea and China.
We've seen these North Korean missiles that have been used. We've seen that there are Chinese parts on them. We know who's manufactured those parts. We know the banks that have financed the companies that manufactured those parts. And then we know the top 4 or 5 banks who finance the bank, who finance the company who makes the parts. And so if they're going to continue financing this, they need to be sanctioned.
Republican Senator Todd Young also spent time in Indianapolis this week. He commented on North Korea after riding along with Metro police officers. Young says he doesn't have as much of a problem as some do with the president's open-ended threats, both in public statements and on Twitter.
I think to the extent we can create uncertainty in the mind of Kim Jong-un, that may be a good thing, right? He's had great certainty that there are going to be little consequences for his actions over the last number of years, and as he races toward developing an intercontinental ballistic missile that can carry a nuclear weapon and deliver it onto U.S. soil, it's imperative that something changes in that equation.
But Young says the president's message should be in step with the country's national security leaders. He says he hopes senators will get another classified briefing on North Korea when lawmakers return to Washington. This week, U.S. B-1 bombers taking off from Guam on a training mission amid increased tensions as President Trump doubles down and defends his tough talk on North Korea.
It's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So, if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough.
The president defiant in the face of concern over his comments promising fire and fury in response to threats from the North Korean regime. North Korea answering the president's rhetoric, vowing to, quote, mercilessly wipe out provocateurs and threatening to fire 4 missiles into the ocean near the U.S. territory of Guam. The president is making headlines this week for another round of controversial tweets. Those tweets target Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and his failed efforts to pass health care reform. One reads, can you believe that Mitch McConnell, who has screamed repeal and replace for 7 years, couldn't get it done? Must repeal and replace Obamacare. The tweet was written in response to comments from McConnell last week.
Now, our new president had, of course, not been in this line of work before, and I think had excessive expectations about how quickly things happen in the democratic process.
Trump also sent out this tweet last week telling McConnell to get back to work and sent him plans on health care, tax reform, cuts, and infrastructure to sign. Up next, escalating rhetoric to North Korea, plus the endorsements and the conservatives in the Republican Senate primary. Our political insiders. And welcome back. We are joined by our RTV6 political insiders, Republican Pete Seat, Democrat Adam Kirsch, and Mary Beth Schneider, formerly of the Indianapolis Star. Thank you for joining us. GOP Senate primary. We've seen some themes already start to emerge in terms of who is most connected to Indiana, who is most conservative. Are there distinct differences in the candidates that have jumped in? And there are several.
Well, Rokita, big difference there is that he made me laugh. I mean, when I read his campaign statement, defeat the elite, I just spit out my morning coffee. The guy has been in Congress for 4 terms. He was Secretary of State before that, worked in government before that. And, you know, defeat the elite is the kind of thing that you might say if you were running from outside. He's been inside. And what it says is that he's not getting the support of those Republican leaders who know him best. So he's labeling them the elite and trying to win without him.
I don't really think there is much difference between Rokita and Messer, which is why you're seeing the primary, I mean, what, 9 months beforehand, getting very nasty, very viscerally personal. I mean, they've both called each other unhinged, and there's 9 months to go, and I don't envy Pete's role in the Republican Party.
Well, the reality is contested primaries on the Republican side have been good for us, generally speaking. My friend Adam and his Democrat Party like to clear the slate and kick everyone out, tell them they can't run, so they only have one candidate, only to ultimately lose in the general election, whereas we allow candidates to come in, have a spirited debate. We have 6 candidates right now who are all there because they know Joe Donnelly is vulnerable, and they're going to have a spirited contest. We're going to have a nominee, and that person's going to ultimately win.
What should the public read into the president's rhetoric, his threats regarding North Korea?
You know, I think it's very difficult to know. It is unlike anything we have seen before. I've never heard a president talk like this. I prefer presidents like Teddy Roosevelt, who say speak softly and carry a big stick. He drew a red line in the sand saying, if North Korea threatens us, this is what we'll do. And then they immediately issued a threat saying they were aiming at Guam, and then nothing happens. I don't want something to happen right now because what happens is nuclear war. But I don't know that the president is doing anything but shoot from the lip, and I'm not sure that's good for anybody.
That is troubling, and Hillary Clinton actually warned the country about exactly that when she said if you can bait him with a tweet, he shouldn't have control of the nuclear weapons. Well, he's got control of the nuclear weapons. He's being baited by tweets, and now he's baiting one of our most dangerous adversaries.
Well, the reality is the weak-kneed liberal response of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and that group is the reason why these tensions are escalating and why North Korea now has the ability to send a ballistic missile potentially to a U.S. territory and maybe one day to the U.S. mainland. It's because they weren't handling this situation properly. They need to know that we are taking this seriously, and they won't get away with this.
Is this proof that the U.S. is prepared?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're prepared. We obviously shouldn't be in this situation. Had the previous administration handled this properly, we wouldn't be in this position where North Korea is potentially prepared to send a missile our way.
Pete, what did Obama do different than George Bush? Because I don't see any particular difference between how the past 4 presidents.
Well, this has certainly been escalating over the course of several administrations, and I think this president sees that threat growing and wants to make it very clear to Kim Jong-un and the thugs that work for him that we're not going to stand for this, which is something that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were never willing to do.
Well, you're right. Mike Pence went to the DMZ and stared North Korea down, and the problem went away. The fact is, North Korea and the United States have been technically at war since the 50s. It is one of the most dangerous areas of the world. There are nuclear weapons, there are landmines, there are tanks, there are all sorts of weapons there, and it would take months for the United States to ramp up to a shooting war. It's inappropriate and dangerous to conduct foreign policy via Twitter.
We saw a strong pushback from Vice President Pence this week on the New York Times article speculating that he was laying the groundwork for a presidential run in 2020. Do you buy it?
Not a bit. And one of the reasons I don't buy it is that in that article, one of the people they called up is Al Hubbard, used to be the state Republican chairman here. They asked him, and he gave a no comment. If his answer was, no, they didn't contact me, no, none of this is happening, he would have said so. I trust Hubbard on that. Instead, he let the story stand. So I trust the story.
Mike Pence is incredibly politically ambitious. It makes no sense for him not to be preparing for 2020.
Yeah.
Well, I would say one of the more ridiculous stories I've read of late, and there's been a lot, so that's saying something, but he's doing what you do in that position. You're cultivating relationships. You're going to Republican events. He's a hot ticket on the Republican fundraising circuit. People want him to come to their states. He's doing what he should be doing in that role, so there's nothing weird.
If 2020 becomes available.
And to help this administration. He's also Vice President of the United States. So you raise money, you build relationships with donors. That's part of the job. It's nothing out of the ordinary.
I almost believe you believe that, Pete.
If he had actually said that, I think that was a good answer for Mike Pence. Just said, I'm doing all the things I should be doing. Instead, he called the article offensive and denied it. Instead, you know, he should just
the premise of the article was offensive to him. Absolutely. The idea that he's doing it with a motive other than assisting this administration in the role that he has is offensive to him.
He's doing it to keep his options open in 2020.
Of course he is. That's easy. You know that, Pete.
Any politician builds relationships. You know that. You know that. We all know that. It's part of the job.
We got to keep it at that. We'll keep talking next week. Thank you for joining us. An Indianapolis-based grassroots crime-fighting plan could become a model statewide. That's coming up next on Indianapolis. The 10-Point Coalition's crime reduction model could be used statewide. The coalition uses a boots-on-the-ground strategy to reduce homicides and other violent crimes in a number of Indianapolis neighborhoods. Law enforcement actively engages with those neighborhoods. Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill hopes to apply that same strategy to other parts of Indiana facing a high rate of violent crimes.
How do people feel in the neighborhoods? And that's kind of hard to quantify. The way you quantify that is you got to go into the neighborhoods and you find out directly with people. How do you feel? Do you feel better? Do you feel safer? Do you feel like the police are your friends? So this is a great opportunity for the 10-Point Coalition here in Indianapolis. It's a great opportunity for the state of Indiana. My office is very pleased and proud to be a small part of it.
Community leaders from Gary have already started studying the 10-Point Coalition strategies. Last year, Indiana was ranked 13th in the United States for the states with the most active hate groups. But Indiana is one of only 5 states that doesn't have a hate crimes law on the books. That's prompting the Central Indiana Alliance Against Hate to host a first-of-its-kind conference in the Circle City. It's called the Indiana Response to Hate Conference. The focus will be fighting and addressing hate-based incidents and crimes. The conference will also offer training on preventing hate crimes.
So with all that, people can check out the agenda and see how strong it is, but it also is, again, as a way for us to have some training tools. How do you handle when you see a racist rant occurring in the grocery store line? How do you, show that you're an ally or that you're an advocate or you're a supporter? And we're going to hopefully give people those tools.
A $125,000 grant is making the event possible. If you'd like to attend the conference, it is open to the public. The event is scheduled for next Thursday, August 17th from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. It'll take place at the Marriott East Hotel on East 21st Street. Registration is $55 per person. New developments in the roundabout battle between Carmel and Indianapolis. A special judge issued an order blocking Carmel from working on the 96th Street roundabout project while the issue is under legal dispute. Carmel wants to build several roundabouts along 96th Street. The city of Indianapolis, though, sued Carmel over those plans. The city's concern is the roundabouts will have a negative impact on several local businesses.
For protecting Hoosier families.
Good morning, I'm Meredith Barrick. Here's what we're working on right now at RTV6. Responses to the deadly protests in Virginia coming from all over the country, including right here in Indiana. The city of Muncie plans to hold a candlelight vigil as they stand in unity with the citizens of Charlottesville and denounce hate. That is happening tonight at 7 on Canaan Commons. A boil order in the city of Plainfield could be lifted today. The advisory started last week when the town experienced a significant water main failure. 6,000 people will stay under that order until water sample test results get back. Stick with the Plainfield Town Facebook page for updates today on the boil order status. Game day is finally here for Colts fans. Kickoff for the first preseason game against the Detroit Lions at 1:30 today. Tickets are still available for as low as $55. Remember, stay up to date with the latest news and weather on the RTV6 app.
Welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. I'm Lauren Casey. It's time for the 6, so let's take a look at 6 things coming up this week in Indy. First, we're talking pepperoni, sausage, all the fixings. Nuvo is hosting Indy Pizza Week this week with a number of local restaurants taking part. That means you can enjoy some local pizza for half the price while participating in a fundraiser for second helpings. The wonderful world of food continues for one more week here at the Indiana State Fair. This week's highlights include the Demolition Derby, Patty LaBelle, and Rodeo Championships. The Indiana State Fair wraps up next Sunday, August 20th. Fresh local food taking center stage at the Indiana State House again this week. Stop by the State House Market on Thursday. It's a special farmers market highlighting Indiana farmers and healthy lifestyles. Well, gamers, get your costumes ready. Gen Con is back and bigger than ever before. The largest convention in its 50-year history is coming back to Lucas Oil Stadium Thursday through Sunday. There will be 500 exhibitors, 17,000 events, a concert, and plenty of people watching. Well, you can help make your local marching band make some money this Saturday. The Greenfield Central Marching Band needs your help. They're selling some mattresses for a fundraiser. Just stop by the school from 10 until 5 on Saturday. Get a great deal for a great cause. And now, taking a trip to my hometown, the Wham Fest is coming back to Greenwood this Saturday from 11 a.m. until 8 a.m. That's wine, art, music, and microbrews, all things you can enjoy at this charitable festival. The proceeds go back into community programs in Greenwood. That's what's on tap this week in and around Indy. Back to you.
And today, if you're thinking about having a cold one, we're delighted to share this study from the University of Wisconsin with you. Beer has health benefits. Apparently, the hops used to brew beer can combat inflammation. Plus, the silicon in beer can increase your bone density. But there's one crucial point to get the benefits. Make sure you drink in moderation. And thank you for joining us for Indianapolis This Week. For our entire production team, we hope you have a great Sunday.